Welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer, Tucker Sennett, joining you here today to discuss National Signing Day or the early signing period for NC State football. And we're going to break down I'm going to react to Dave Doeren's press conference discussing NC State's 2026 class, as well as, some tendencies that this class showed, and kind of where Doeren is at as the head coach of NC State. So let's dive in. NC State brought in about 26 recruits so far. There could be more coming in over the course of the week. All 3 stars, no 4 stars this year, which is a dip down from years past. Usually the NC State classes include a couple of 4 stars, so not something to be super concerned about because probably more likely that this is going to be a portal heavy year for Doeren and his staff, given what's leaving. You're going to lose a lot on the defensive end. So NC State doesn't want to rebuild with freshmen in that way. They'd rather, build on the fly with portal players who can come in and fit the culture. Rather than having to wait for these guys to develop and sort of go through the growing pains. Now, they're not uncomfortable playing freshmen. We saw that this year, and Doeren indicated that there's certainly a few guys that are in this class of 26 that could be impact players in year one, especially given, the roster's shrinking and given the injuries that NC State dealt with. You got to have depth no matter what. So, I don't think that was an emphasis when NC State began this recruiting class. However, it's sort of become one over the course of the fall and the summer, and that's really important because NC State lost so many players this year and was kind of down to the bottom of the barrel, and with this number 49 recruiting class, um, they can plug some of those holes if they need to, and there's some confident players in this group that I think Dave Doran's really fired up about. Amiri Acker certainly sounds like he's really fired up to be a member of the Wolfpack. He's a wide receiver out of South Carolina. Should be a very welcome addition to this NC State team, and has some serious speed. And that was something that Dave Doeren identified yesterday in his press conference as something that this team really looked for because they do, it's really good to have multi-sport athletes because these are kids that have kind of done everything at this point. They tend to be, some of the hardest workers on the team, and that can go a long way in sort of establishing a culture if you bring in those guys that can work really hard. As for position by position, they were pretty balanced across the board, brought in a lot of offensive talent. Dorn really emphasized the importance of recruiting the edge rushers because of the changeover from from Tony Gibson's defense to DJ Elliott's defense. They were playing a different scheme under Gibson. Now they're playing a more of a multiple scheme. So you got to have a lot of edge rushers for different looks in DJ Elliott's multiple scheme. Elliott also allowed them to kind of expand their recruiting regions from what they used to be, moving more out of just the North Carolina region and South Carolina region and into the Northeast in areas like New Jersey and Pennsylvania. That's where Elliott was based out of for the last few years. He was the defensive coordinator at Temple. Obviously, was the Eagles linebackers coach. Then he was an analyst for Baylor out of Philadelphia. Only went to Waco a few times throughout the course of the season to help out with Baylor. So he was kind of based in Philadelphia throughout most of the last 3 or 4 years and established some serious inroads with high schools in the area. Did his due diligence and brought that research and that those cultivated resources to NC State. And the Wolfpack was really able to capitalize on it with this recruiting class. Did a really, really nice job recruiting out of there. A couple players from New Jersey, a couple players from Pennsylvania in the class. So, the defensive class will likely be the group that has a chance to contribute the most early. That's a area that NC State had to dip pretty far into this season, given the injury issues and the depth issues. So I expect that the defense will certainly be improved in terms of depth with this recruiting class. I'm not sure that it won't be an easy it won't be an easy strategy and task to replace some of the outgoing talent that NC State has, and Doeren brought that up. They have to replace Sebastian Harsh, the team's best pass rusher, Kean Sloan, the team's other best pass rusher, and a very unique player. One of the guys that they brought in to do that is junior college transfer Josh Warren Jr. out of Georgia Military Junior College. He was the number one in the state, number one JUCO player in the state of Georgia. So obviously a pretty nice get for NC State, number 12 nationally out of junior college. So that was, on a more national standpoint, a pretty solid get for this NC State team. NC State did flip a recruit from North Carolina, which Doeren was pretty fired up about. Kind of used that as an opportunity to throw some shade. But I think what maybe most stood out most about at Doran's press conference was a moment where we kind of got sidetracked and he was asked about sort of where he stands as NC State's head coach because nobody has had a chance to ask him about the report that came out that he's going to be around for his 14th season in Raleigh. And there's also this Brazil trip that's looming, which I've written about. NC State will be one of the first teams to play a college football game in South America against Virginia. They'll be the other team, and that has become a conference game. And Doran was pretty quick to say he was really fired up about this opportunity. He's never gotten to coach a game outside of the United States. I'm sure he was sort of relaying his excitement in this moment, but maybe didn't have the same feelings when this was all coming together. But it is a really, really interesting opportunity from a recruiting standpoint because, I'm sure they told a lot of these kids today and over the last week or so, hey, you can have an opportunity to play football internationally here that you're not going to get at a lot of these other schools. So that's a really big stage for these guys, and I'm sure it's a nice allure for a 17-year-old 18-year-old recruit that wants to play under the bright lights. So I think Doran has embraced that opportunity with gusto and is really intrigued to get to travel a new part of the world, and he'll get to do that next fall in August. So as for the job security, Doran kind of took it upon himself to once again, and I understand why he feels the need to do it because speculation just didn't really stop even when he debunked it the first time, but he took the opportunity to just say, you know, there's people that have kind of been just reporting stuff that is not necessarily true, that, he was going to retire this year, that on the hot seat, and it was his mindset is that none of that was ever true. To me, it became abundantly clear that he wasn't going anywhere, at least on his own accord, throughout the season, as he continued to really praise the coachability of this group. And that was something that wasn't there with the 2024 team. And he's talked about that before. He said that team really drove him crazy and did force him to consider retirement. He definitely thought about that, but he seems to be more invested than ever now, and it seems like there's a little bit more of a energy about this program. Now that could all get shot down if NC State has a poor showing in whatever its bowl game is, which we'll find out more about on Sunday. But Dorn seems to be rejuvenated by this finish. 3-1 finish to November. A number 49 recruiting class doesn't really strike me as one that would be, encouraging for him, but he seems to be really, really intrigued by this group and ready to lead NC State into its next phase of this sort of evolution as the sport changes so much from a year-to-year basis. So those are my main takeaways from Dave Doran's signing day press conference. As always, if you want more content, we'll have a lot of signing day content over the next week or so coming out about, this recruiting class and some specific players. Go ahead and follow me on social media at Senate Tucker on X. You can follow the website on X at Wolfpack on SI. And of course, if you want daily episodes of the NC State Insider Podcast, go ahead and follow the sports videos on SI YouTube channel. All our episodes will be right there every day. As always, thanks for tuning in.